Too many immigrants learn about their options too late. When you're here on a temporary visa, time becomes a privilege, and the decisions that you make today can completely alter the options that you have for yourself, like a few months or a year down the line. So you need to be like literally like there's a massive knowledge gap, and too many people are like learning about their options literally way too late. Imera essentially is a platform to help simplify the immigration journey. We provide personalized guidance, we provide vetted and trusted services, and we provide community. And essentially, we want Imera to be the one stop like platform if you are an immigrant in the US. So we focus on immigrants who come to the US for education or employment opportunities, much like I did. And we just reduce barriers to entry for them.
You're listening to Forum Founders. We tell stories of immigrant and first-gen entrepreneurs, investors, operators, and ecosystem builders. And on the show, you hear incredible stories that often go untold. Really excited to have my friend Liesel Vaidya. She is the co-founder and CEO of Imera, a venture-backed platform focused on expanding access and opportunity for immigrants. Liesel previously served as CTO of a digital health startup where she built award-winning products that transformed access to care for survivors of sexual assault. Originally from Kathmandu, Nepal, she understands firsthand the barriers immigrants face when building a new life in a new country. Welcome to Forum Founders, Liesel.
Thanks for having me, Andy. Super excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. So I've known you for a while, but I would love to tell the audience about you, your background.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. This is Liesel. My background, essentially, I grew up halfway across the world in Kathmandu, Nepal. About 10 years ago, when I was 19, I moved to the US for college, and I've been here ever since. And atypical to most of my peers, I decided to start a company right after I graduated and moved to New York City. And when I made that decision, I was still on a student visa, faced a lot of challenges, learned a lot of lessons, and Imera essentially is a culmination of all the challenges and frustrations that I faced in my journey, and hope that others don't have to go through the same challenges that I did.
And atypical to a lot of different students too. Like, why'd you decide to start your first company right out of college? Is that something that you grew up with, seeing or experiencing?
Yeah, no, actually, I never would have imagined that I would do something entrepreneurial so early. I think I just fell into it. It's like when the right problem and opportunity is in front of you, you don't walk away from it, you don't shy away. You like go head in and you go all in. And that's what happened. Someone I was working with at the time at a different startup, like basically came up to me with the idea for starting my last company. And it just felt like such an important thing to work on. And I just asked myself, do I imagine myself like waking up and like working towards this every single day? Is it worth it? And the answer was yes. So that's what the decision-making process was.
Yeah. So you were on a student visa. You wanted to work on this company and startup. You actually end up raising money for it too.
I raised over 9 million for my first company.
Wow. Was that a complete learning process? What was that
Oh,
experience like as a first time founder, like young founder, raising money, building this?
yeah, it was a complete roller coaster. It made so many mistakes, learned so many lessons again, but at the same time, again, it was like building a plane while you're also like flying it at the same time. Me and my co-founder at that time, we were like 23, 24 years old, both almost out of college. So I was an immigrant, so like I was learning a lot of things at the same time as well about culture or even like startups and like venture capital. But again, like it was a lot of fun. The mission was very important, and it was an incredible sort of like journey.
And now you are building what you said is like the culmination, a lot of different experiences that are going through. Before we go into Imera as well, like what was that impetus to do another startup? Because you have you've done that first startup. You could potentially work for a lot of different companies and basically build your career trajectory in a completely different way. What was that like? Oh, I want to do that second startup.
I was quite surprised that I went down this path, to be honest, because after I came out of my last journey, I took a bit of time off. I was doing some consulting, really trying to explore and figure out what I wanted to do next. And starting a company again was at the bottom of the list, even though
It was at the bottom of
my
the list.
yeah, and it was funny because when I started my first company, I remember like my friends and family, especially my family still back home in Nepal, they were like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like they were very concerned, and when I came out of my last company and I was thinking about what's next, almost every single person wanted me to start another company instead of like going to work for someone else on something else. But I did take a bit of time to like really think about what I wanted to do, which I think was a critical period for me because I just wanted to like make sure I took enough time to reflect on this like massive journey that I'd been on and really think about what I wanted out of this next phase. And what it came down to was, yeah, just like meeting one individual after the other over and over again who all face like similar challenges to what I did, and
Mhm.
realizing that all of them are facing the same issues that I did, and they're still like relying on like word of mouth advice or like frantic Google searches or really doom scrolling Reddit for advice on their immigration, which can literally be life altering.
Yeah.
And I realized that we literally have the technology available to provide like personalized advice at scale that's vetted and trusted, and that can literally like completely alter trajectories for people in many ways. And I basically couldn't stop thinking about it once me and Vika's my co-founder, we started like talking about it. And then I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then shortly after I started dreaming about it. So it was basically at that point, I think I knew that there was nothing else I wanted to do. But
Sign.
yeah.
So you mentioned earlier about talking to different immigrants and their experience going through that. What were some of the common things that you're hearing over and over again?
Yeah, I think the biggest theme is just the fact that too many immigrants learn about their options too late. Like when you're here on a temporary visa, time becomes a privilege, and the decisions that you make today can completely alter the options that you have for yourself, like a few months or a year down the line. So you need to be like literally like there's a massive knowledge gap, and too many
Mhm.
people are like learning about their options literally way too late. And when I say too many, it's not a couple or a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand, it's like millions. So I think that's like the biggest gap that I see.
Yeah, because you said, I think in another podcast, you're basically saying an average of an immigrant's life in the US is 7 years. So
Yeah.
you're saying majority of the people around like year six or even year seven, they're like, oh my gosh, what do I do if XYZ options aren't available?
Yeah, exactly. And like most people know about the most like standard, like common pathways, but there is like nuances and there is like other additive like pathways that are available that might be much more flexible and favorable to like what their like personal goals are and their backgrounds are that people just have no idea about. And a big topic that comes up within this is the O1 and like EB1 visas. There's so many talented people that I'm constantly surrounded by, and they've either never heard of these pathways, or if they've heard of these pathways, one of the first things that they might read is that it's like the Einstein visa or you need
Yeah.
to win like an Oscar or an Emmy, and they immediately are like, okay, like that's not for me. But
Yeah.
if you keep reading, like there's a bunch of other like things you can do to qualify for these pathways, and it's an exceptional like visa. And I personally helped many individuals secure their O1s and EB1s, and it brings me a lot of joy, like looking at what they're building, what they're up to, and a lot of their companies, like it's making a real difference in the world. So that's being able to do that at scale is really exciting.
Yeah. It's almost like those visas that are those exceptional ones.
Yeah.
They just label it that way. So people are like, what? Like, auto disqualifying myself to be like,
Yeah.
I can't do this XYZ. So I love it that there's Imera and you and Vika like supporting those immigrants to find these options and pathways. That's a great segue into what is Imera? What do you do as a company?
Yeah, so Imera essentially is a platform to help simplify the immigration journey. We provide personalized guidance, we provide vetted and trusted services, and we provide community. And essentially, we want Imera to be the one stop like platform if you are an immigrant in the US. So we focus on immigrants who come to the US for education or employment opportunities, much like
Yeah.
I did. And we just reduce barriers to entry for them by bridging the knowledge gap using our platform. And we also partner with tons of services across legal support, housing, healthcare, financial services, and bring all of these services that work with internationals in
Mm-hmm.
one trusted platform. I guess a way of thinking about Imera is also think of Imera as like your primary care provider. And you need to make sure that your immigration health is intact and have like regular check ins and checkups and get recommendations. And then every now and then, you might have specialized needs where you need to use a different service. And when needs arise, we will refer you out to trusted and vetted services within our network.
Yeah.
So if you're actually building in the space and want to work with us, hit me up.
Yeah. If you are basically building services or solutions for that end customer who's an immigrant in that either as a student coming to the US for the first time and building their life here, or even like looking for jobs, Imera is that first place destination and all these like services can plug into you basically.
Yeah, exactly.
This is always the hardest part with just like early stage and company building is like you said earlier you're like thinking about this, dreaming about this, all that stuff. How did you and Vika decide that Imero is going to be this platform? As another question, another way of saying this is you could have served different parts of that like immigrant journey. Why did you decide to do it at this juncture?
Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time looking at what was already available in this space and like what our friends were building in this space. And there's essentially a lot of immigration tools that solve a piece of the puzzle. And we're working with a lot of them, but we still saw this like general gap, which was the knowledge gap. And also, the market is so fragmented that when you use a service and you need something else, because you will need something else in your like average of 7 year journey, then again, you're wasting so much time, effort, like the emotional energy trying to find that support. Imera is essentially we're building the connective tissue to tie everything together and also serve as a GPS for your entire immigration journey.
Yeah, I almost think of it this way because I use, let's say, ZocTalk for a lot of
Yeah,
my health like thing.
yeah,
And what's helpful is like a one-stop shop of being like, oh, you did this last year, you did this last year.
yeah.
It's time for a checkup. Like
Mhm.
having that one place for immigrants to engage with different services that they need is going to be awesome. For the two types of audiences, this, let's say the student, what's the best way, or how are you finding those students at the right point of time?
Yeah, so we partner with a lot of universities to get to their students. So we also do a lot of like events in person. So a lot of our partnerships have been in the Northeast, so we can have a physical presence since we are based here in New York. But as we launch and grow, we're launching soon in literally 2 weeks. We will be expanding our partnerships. And if you're a student listening to this right now, and could benefit. And if you think your entire community at your university could benefit from Imera, find me on LinkedIn, email me first name at withimera.com, and we'll make sure that you have the support you need.
That's awesome. How about for people who are post college or post university looking for a job in the US? Like, how do they find Imera or how do you work with them?
Yeah, for Those who are not students anymore, we have been trying to do a lot of community building. So primarily, I think we've so far worked with a number of incubators that have like foreign founders. We've also worked with like different nonprofits across, again, like the Northeast. And so far, we've had the more grassroots level community building effort. Post launch, we'll try to scale that and have more like digitized, like amplified effort there. But once you're out of college, especially if you came here on a student visa, or honestly, if you're here on a work visa, then there is a higher sense of urgency with getting out like, your visa options, for example. Perhaps you're already here or you've just arrived, and like even like finding housing as an international who may not have had any credit history or social security number can get really complex. So we're also like looking at partnering with employers, for example,
Yes.
and having Imera as a benefit, because we can help with not just the personalized recommendations in terms of your visa pathways, but also when it comes to finding housing. We have a housing partner in New York that works with internationals without a social security number, without a credit history. We have partners that allow you to open a bank account before you even arrive in the US, as soon as you have a valid US visa. So there's all these things step by step that we've thought about and are
Mm.
continuously like working on building that supports the end-to-end life cycle of what it means to be an immigrant.
Yeah. You're launching in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Where do you want to take Imera 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line?
Oh
What
my
are you
gosh.
envisioning there? I want to hear
Yeah.
it all.
I want Emera to essentially be the company that every single immigrant who comes to the US knows about, that helps them unlock opportunities that they never would have known existed, and basically just again like help meet everyone's full potential, because there's so many people with so much potential who want to build and do incredible things, but they, as immigrants, they face so many barriers to
Mhm.
entry, and being able to like reduce those barriers so that actively and effectively contribute to the economy. Immigrants contribute over 2 trillion to the US economy every single year, and imagine what we can do if we were able to streamline that process and make it easier for them to even contribute further. Yeah, the biggest thing is we in Mera, I hope, is able to help a lot of immigrants build trajectory changing lives for themselves.
Yeah. And for foreign founders too, like we focus on a very narrow subset of, okay, early stage founders who are immigrants building. But even then, we don't tell enough of those stories. So for Imera to basically help as many found like immigrants through the process, through building their life in the US, and then hopefully down the line, they'll join foreign founders and like we can tell about their stories too. So that's
Yes.
awesome. There's not many opportunities that I get to interview multi-time founders. So I'm going to shift a little bit. What are some of the things, especially listeners who are listening to this episode, building maybe their first company? What are some things that you learned from the first time around that you're applying to the second time around?
Be incredibly intentional with your approach. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. Do not agree to work with someone or basically sign up for something if you don't think it's going to be a good fit long term. Now more than ever, it is important that you are aligned on not just like the mission of the company, the business, but also like on a values perspective, on a human perspective. So make sure like that is solid first and foremost. And I think the biggest thing that I benefit from is also when you meet people, life in the US, and there's so many events here in New York, you're constantly meeting so many people. And sometimes it's actually a lot of times it's very transactional, right? I think try to build like real relationships with people. And before you ask anyone to do something for you or you need something from someone, try to do something for them. Give first without before asking. something. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Always, no matter who you are, who you're in front of, there's always something you can do for the other person. So try to think about what that thing is,
Yeah.
and you'll build a lot of credit in life and in relationships that will come back to you tenfold that way.
Yeah. I know. You are an expert in that. So I'm learning a lot from you doing that, just going around New York, meeting people. But it's totally right in the sense that, especially in a big city like New York, everything can be transactional. And like, I've met enough people who are just like, I keep meeting people, but it doesn't take the next step. What do I do differently? So
Yeah.
that advice of, yeah, like
Yeah.
giving something,
Hmm.
giving first before expecting any sort of anything from someone else is probably a good path to
Yeah.
lean into.
Yeah, and it's also like building community, right? Where I grew up and how I grew up, like we lived around massive communities, and I definitely miss that a lot when I moved here. And when I was thinking about what's really important for me in this next phase, that was a massive part. And now I'm much more intentional about how we approach building community. And I think that translates a lot to how we build Imera as a company as well.
Yeah.
And I hope more people do that.
Yeah. So Imera's building the community piece, and you're hosting a lot of virtual but also in-person community events. What other communities are you part of? And what are some of the lessons or like the best parts about those communities that you want to implement into Imera?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I'm trying to think of all the communities. I'm a part of a lot of communities. Some
Yeah,
I
I can see
actively
that.
part some I actively participate in, others I'm on the wall. Um, And I think the biggest thing that I take away from the ones that I actively participate in is being able to like meet different types of people that I otherwise would not have met. And again, like building relationships, you never know when you might need to work with a certain type of person or either professionally or personally. And there's also something nice about building a lot of friendships. And I think, yeah, just meeting different types of people and getting access to those who you otherwise wouldn't have met, it's the best thing.
Yeah. The immigrant founder community is like pretty small here as well. We get to meet other people and like we get to hang out, and I love it.
Yeah.
Last couple questions. So, talking about your Nepalese background,
Yes.
are there any good Nepalese food here in New
Oh my
York?
gosh. Yes, absolutely. I have a few
Name
favorites.
drop them.
Yeah, there is a number of them, but my
Yeah.
favorites that I keep going back to. So I live in Queens,
Mhm.
and in Sunnyside, Queens, there is a place called Bajiko Sekowa, and they have really bomb food, like so good. That's a really good spot. And then Jackson Heights has a lot of amazing spots also in Queens. And one place that I've been going back to way too much is this new place called Ama's Kitchen. I believe they opened just in the last year. And they have something called a thali, which essentially is like you get like rice and a bunch of different like sides, but it's like bottomless like lunch or dinners because they keep bringing out like the sides. You can get unlimited like refills.
That's amazing.
Not that I ever have the appetite big enough to like continue eating because it's like huge, but it's so good and it literally tastes like home cooked. Like it's so good. Those I would say are like my top two that I've been going back to a lot.
We'll go next time.
Yes.
What do you love about building for immigrants?
I think it's like the same thing I've said many times, which is being able to open up opportunities and doors for people who want to build a better life for themselves or want to build
Mhm.
something that literally impacts millions of other people. Like that's the biggest like incentive. And I mean, you probably get it because you are building such an amazing community with foreign founders, but like when you are able to help someone and unlock an opportunity for them, like it feels really good, right? But
Mhm.
imagine like being able to do that at scale for like millions of people and maybe even not just like those individuals, but generations to come, their entire families. Like that's fantastic. So I think
Yeah.
that's like the biggest incentive.
millions of people, and also because there's a solution like Imera, it would probably open up millions more of people who are like making that decision of maybe not the US because it's so confusing to, oh my gosh, it is, Imera makes it super easy. So yeah,
Yeah,
opens up that opportunity too. Last question I ask all my founders on the episode is, what are you optimistic about?
I'm optimistic about our futures. We, I know a lot of things, especially in the space, are emotionally charged right now, and there's a lot of fear mongering as well. But we are focused on supporting immigrants like ourselves who come to the US for education and employment opportunities. We know how much your families might have sacrificed for you to have this like future here. And I think I'm quite optimistic that if we all like work together and if we all support each other and find resources and share these resources, I'm pretty excited for everything that the future holds and all the new cool tools that other immigrants are going to build and more unicorn companies that immigrant founders are going to build as well.
Love that ending. And if people want to reach out to you or they want to use Imera, like where do you want to send them?
Yeah, you can go to our website at withimera.com and you can sign up for our waitlist. In 2 weeks, it won't be a waitlist. You'll be able to download our app from the App Store. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn. Email me if you have any questions. It's just my first name at withimera.com. Or if you sign up for our waitlist, you can also join us at one of our events. We throw happy hours almost every month. And we also host like other types of events and workshops that may be helpful to you. Hope to see you guys there.
Yeah, I'll add all that information in the show notes. And also, Imera Informed Founders is co hosting an event with Lovely for New York Tech Week at the beginning of June. So I'm really excited to do that with you. And Vika, thank you for being on Foreign Founders.
Thank you, Andy.